I'd like to call this council and committee meeting to order. Before we proceed, I want to acknowledge that the land upon which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe people. We are the beneficiaries of ancient agreements, such as the dish with one spoon between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agreed to share the abundance of the land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The two-row wampum, by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed the settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect, and the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by First Nations in all future relations and treaties with the British. We recognize that we have a responsibility to be stewards of the land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous peoples, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn the lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of the Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people live and work in Fort Erie. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let us be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island. Mr. Clerk, the roll call, please.
Your Worship, Councillor McDermott is absent this evening. All other members of Council are present.
Thank you. There is an addendum this evening. We have an additional closed session item relative to the CAO's performance review. We have the building fourth quarter report moved from consent agenda to the planning, building, and bylaw services portion of the meeting. And there's an appendix that's been replaced due to a minor omission. The park name proposal for the park on Thunder Bay Road near Oaks at 6 Mile Creek is being deleted and deferred to a later date. And we have the addition of the report relative to the Colony Road water main replacement project, and also a waste receptacle replacement single sourcing report, each of which will be included in the infrastructure services portion of the agenda. Just a few announcements. The first of which is I want to wish all of the mothers in Fort Erie a belated Happy Mother's Day. You know, we're all conscious of the importance of mothers. They nourish us, they teach us, they guide us, and any of us who had a good mother, and hopefully that's almost everyone, has to appreciate how fortunate we are as we start off in life with probably the most important figure in our growth and development. Second thing I want to point out is that you'll notice that the Ukrainian flag has been removed from the council chamber. And, you know, we put that flag up 4 years ago when the Russian invasion began. And at the time it seemed appropriate to fly the flag. Canada was supporting Ukraine in its efforts against Russia. We wanted to show solidarity with the Ukrainian people. Ukraine is a democratic nation. We wanted to show our disapproval of the Russian unprovoked aggression. Many Canadians are of Ukrainian descent, and they've helped to build this nation. So at the time, it seemed an important gesture. The flags stood in this council chamber for over 4 years. And at the time that war started, I don't believe anyone thought it was going to drag on for 4 years. But the Russian aggression continues. And just seemed that despite the fact that international law is quite clear that boundaries of sovereign nations are not to be altered by military force, the Ukraine is a victim of unprovoked Russian aggression. The question at this time is whether it is appropriate to continue to fly the flag of another nation in our council chambers. Many people take the position that it's not appropriate, that this is the forum for local political decision-making, not international or national decision-making. So we've taken that flag, we've taken the flags down, and the other complicating factor is that since the invasion of Ukraine, there have been many other conflicts that have arisen, and Canada is on all sides of these various conflicts, and so probably the best thing is to remove the flags, we can still support the Ukraine. We can still support international law and rules-ordered world, and we can still oppose the aggression of Russia or any other nation that attempts to alter international boundaries. We can do all of that without flying the Ukrainian flag. So they've been removed. I want to thank Council for your forbearance in allowing these flags to continue on in the chamber for this long. And I want to thank the people of Fort Erie for their support. But it seems like it's appropriate now that we would move on, still recognize that we can support Ukraine in its efforts, and we'll do that. The third announcement I wanted to make has to do with the retirement of Dr. Kim, who retired on April the 30th. He received his medical degree from the University of Toronto Faculty of Medicine. He practiced family medicine in Fort Erie for over 40 years. And in 2008, when Niagara Health presented its hospital improvement plan, that's an oxymoron, by the way, he, alongside Dr. Teal, presented a counter-proposal to Niagara Health, which would have actually made greater use of Douglas Memorial Hospital and provided more services for our residents as opposed to fewer. In any event, we all know the rails that train went down, but we want to sincerely appreciate Dr. Kim for his many years of dedicated service to the residents of Fort Erie, and we wish him every success and happiness in a well-deserved retirement. That then takes us to, and one final announcement. Later on in the agenda, we're going to be receiving a report relative to a grant that we're receiving from the province with respect to the installation of a new water main along Colony Road and what's the other road? Stanlin Park, yes. And so that will be part of the report. It's a $4.5 million grant towards a just slightly more than $6 million project, but it's fundamental for ensuring that residents in Fort Erie have safe, drinkable water, and that the water line will be easily maintained by municipal resources and not detrimentally affected by climate events on Lake Erie. Okay. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? If there are none, we have some closed session items. The first is the minutes of April 27th, 2026. The second has to do with a litigation update for a matter involving 4152 Erie Road. The third is Land Committee meeting minutes of April the 16th, 2026. And the fourth, as I said, is relative to the CAO performance review. Can I have a motion to go into closed session? Councillor Dubanow. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Then we're going to go into closed session at 6:09. Okay, we're back in session at 7:38 after our closed session. And Councillor Lewis, you have the resolution for us to go back into open session?
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, the council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 7:38 p.m. with report 6.1. The council approves the closed session minutes of April 27th, 2026. 6.2, the council receives confidential report LLS 06-2026 litigation update regarding 4152 Erie Road and authorize the town's external counsel to proceed as directed in closed session. 6.3, the council receives confidential report CAO 0726-2026 regarding Land Committee minutes April 16th, 2026, and authorize staff to proceed as directed in closed session. And 6.4, that council authorize staff to proceed as directed in closed session.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to notice of upcoming public meetings. We've got an open house for the updated community improvement plans, and that's for Wednesday, May the 20th, between 5 and 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. And there's a public meeting with respect to the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 240 Jarvis Street, and that's going to take place on Monday, May the 25th, 2026 at 6 p.m. And then that takes us to public meetings. There are none. Consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes removed from the consent agenda? If not, can I have a mover? Councillor Flagg. So the consent agenda, Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick comment with respect to item 10.6, PBBS 24-2026, the Friendship Trail Crossing Improvements Information Report. I was actually very happy to see the methods and the content of this report and where we're moving forward. Back during my first term of council, I sat on the regional circle tour committee, which was about connecting cycling routes and pedestrian routes together. And one of the stakeholders who met with us regularly was the Niagara Freewheelers group, and they're a cyclist enthusiast group in Niagara. And they had commented that they absolutely loved the Friendship Trail. They thought it was the best cycling facility in the entire region. And there was always concern about putting up bollards or gates or things to make it difficult to cycle through, requiring dismounting, et cetera, et cetera. So I was very happy to see the methods from, I'm getting into shop talk here, but OTM, I believe it's Book 18, which handles cycling facilities. Very happy to see that included here, and the pedestrian crossovers and signage. I think this is the right way to do it. Very, very happy with this, and looking forward to seeing it implemented. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Welcome. Councillor Noyes.
PBS 21-2026, the condominium exemption request for the Palmwood. Reading the report, and it's a long report, was there anything there about the encroachment agreement with the town? I couldn't find it.
There wouldn't be, and that's not part of that particular topic. This is just to permit the owner to avoid some of the provisions of the Condominium Act, so it doesn't really deal with the encroachment issue. You want to know the status of that?
Well, I understand that, but when you look at some of the things, it says there's no, in their big report that I guess their planner did, there was a lot of information in there, and on the map it has a picture of the encroachment, but there's nothing in his dialogue, in his big presentation about the encroachment. And I think, granted, it's not part of this, but everything else was in there, but this.
Yeah, Mr. Riley, wherever you are. Any, does council's dealing with this request by the owner to be exempt from certain provisions of the Condominium Act affect the town's position relative to the easement issue for the parking?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I came in late after the meeting had started, so I just want to confirm which matter we're dealing with.
So we're dealing with the PBS it's 10.5 PBBS 21, and it's the condominium exemption request relative to the Palmwood.
So I believe the town entered into an encroachment agreement with the owner, which is still valid for several more years. That's to my recollection, but I can confirm and get back to council about that.
Councillor Noyes?
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm just saying, we had a lot of background information, but that was not included in the background information, and I thought it should have been. Okay, my next question was in the PBS 22-2026, my favorite topic.
Okay, so you're at PBBS 22, so that's
Yes.
gone to the planning portion of the meeting, so it's been taken out of
Oh,
the
okay.
consent agenda. Anything further? Anything further? Anyone else? I had a few questions. So in connection with, and this is to the CAO, in connection with the CS04 10.1, the development charges reserve fund status, it lists the various categories. Do we or have we done a fleet needs audit? And if not, is it something that we should be contemplating?
To the chair, to council, we have talked about a fleet management strategy. We did have a retirement of an employee who would have been key in terms of moving that forward. I may defer to Mr. Peasel to find out if that position's been filled, but it'll be a key resource to move that forward. But to your point, we are looking at a vehicle replacement strategy for a number of reasons and ensuring that we have a good process in place. But I'll
That's fine. So it's
defer to Mr.
contemplated.
Peasel. Correct.
Okay. The other, with respect to 10.3, this is the contact center as a service, procurement and budget. What is the mechanism for making sure that council is aware of the closing of the loop on customer service issues that are brought forward to our staff? How can we ensure that council will be aware of the closing of the loop on issues that are brought to us that we then pass on to customer service? And that's to the CAO as well.
To you, that's a great question because the
Thank
way
you.
that the customer contact center or service requests work now is the person who's put the service request forward is listed as the person who's responding back. And so if it's a member of council that's put in there, you would be the one notified once the ticket closed.
So that's
But-
the incentive for a member of council to take the complaint we get by email and transfer that to the complaint system,
That's
customer
correct.
service system.
And often they're forwarded to customer service. So it's a follow-up because I think we'd have to check to see if the system will allow two issuers of the service request to be responded back to. So in that instance, if it's a resident who's reached out to you, the resident would be listed as the person who's issuing the service request. We may be closing the loop with them and not with the member of council who's forwarded it. So I'll have to follow back on that because it's a great question to ensure that that loop is fully closed on both accounts.
Great, please do, thank you. The third question I had, I spoke with the Director of Planning earlier today about report PBBS 21. That is the condominium exemption request. In the body of the report, makes reference to the stakeholders. Did you have an opportunity, Ms. Dilwari, to confirm that the owner is still the numbered corporation represented by Matt Kernahan, the planner?
Yes, Your Worship, I looked into the records and you were right. The owner of the information provided in the report is incorrect. The owner of the property is Peter Kutu and the numbered company is 1322977 Ontario Inc.
Okay, so that should be inserted in the body of that report,
Yes, Your Worship.
because that's a clerical correction, but it should be clear. And then the final question I had relates to the Friendship Trail crossing improvements. And there is a budget with respect to the improvements. The report suggests that there's going to need to be additional time. But I thought that the anticipated cost of the improvements was just under $100,000, and we've budgeted 90. Is there someone on staff that can comment on that? There is someone on staff that can comment on that.
Through the chair to your worship. So originally the budget was for the consultants and for the construction of the improvements. However, when we received the recommendations for the improvements, that exceeded the approved budget. So we're looking at how we can kind of incorporate the recommendations that were proposed through our current budget, and then which ones we can most likely implement when we do the actual replacement later on for the Friendship Trail, which is scheduled in the capital budget for future works.
Okay, so in the body of the report on page 13, there's a listing of the anticipated costs. So we're not clear that that's going to be adequate to do all of the changes that are being proposed, because that, I think that totals just under 100,000, I think, and I believe the budget's 90.
For in the proposed report. So I think what you're looking at, and unfortunately I don't have it with me, is that's the cost per the intersection. So if you were to times it by the amount of intersections, whether it's, because it's split up into 3 different costs, one for the rural, one for the urban, and one for the suburban. So since there's 17 intersections in total, you would combine it would be that price times the intersection, like the amount of suburban, times the amount of rural, or times the amount of urban intersections.
Right, but I think that's what this does, and it totals around $97,000. In any event, I think you've indicated at the outset that the town is going to take a look at how much of this we can do within the parameters of the budget that has been allocated. So and then will council be receiving some follow-up report on that?
Should council like, we can most definitely follow up with the improvements that we have done at the end of the year, and then which ones we can be looking at in future steps.
Okay, that would be great, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions by anyone? If not, all those in favor of the recommendations in the reports in the consent agenda? There's no one opposed, so that is unanimous. That then takes us to Planning, Building, and Bylaw Services. Councillor Christensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. This session of Planning and Building and Bylaw Services Subcommittee is in session. We have a presentation this evening. Ms. Ferruzzi, the Coordinator of Planning and Development Services, is going to speak to the 2025 fourth quarter and year-end building development status. Thank you. Ms. Ferruzzi. Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. As most of you know, my name is Felicia Frusi, and I am the Coordinator of Planning and Building and Bylaw Services. Tonight, I will be providing a brief overview of the 2025 fourth quarter or year-end activity for Planning, Building, and Bylaw Services. First, I will provide an overview of building activity and construction trends. Second, I will discuss planning and growth activity, including housing support and development applications. Third, I will provide an overview of community planning, including several key initiatives that were advanced through 2025. Fourth, regulatory and bylaw services, including the continued implementation of the tree bylaw and bylaw enforcement activity. Turning to building activity. In 2025, the building department issued a total of 519 building permits, representing approximately $134 million in construction value and resulting in the creation of 177 new residential units. While this reflects a decrease in building permits from 2024, the activity level remains strong and reflects a shift towards more stable and normalized growth following several high growth years. In terms of non-residential development, Fort Erie continued to experience strong investment activity throughout 2025. Industrial construction value increased significantly during this year, largely due to the construction of the new water tower located on Pettit Road. Commercial activity also remained active, including renovations and additions associated with the Flying J restaurant and Turtle Daycare. Institutional construction value increased substantially in 2025, primarily due to the construction of the new hospice building on King Street. Overall, the project reflects continued investments in infrastructure services and employment-related developments across the town. Building service continued to deliver strong operational performances and timely permit review since in 2025. Key projects include the new water tower on Pettit Road, the 8-story apartment building on King Street, and the new hospice facility on, the building on High Street and the new hospice facility on King Street. Together, these projects represent significant investments in infrastructure, housing, and community services across Fort Erie. Building staff continued to exceed provincially mandated review timelines in 2025. Average review times achieved were 5 days for residential permits, 7 days for both small and large buildings, and 17 days for complex buildings, all while within the provincial mandated requirements. Overall, more than 95% of permits were reviewed within the regular timelines. Staff also made a significant progress in addressing older open building permits, successfully closing out 1,226 permits throughout the year. Turning to planning and development activity. In 2025, the Development Planning Division received a total of 215 applications. While this represents a decrease from 2024, application activity remained relatively strong overall. The majority of applications continue to consist of minor variants and pre-consultations, reflecting continued development interest and ongoing construction activity throughout the municipality. Subdivision activity remained steady throughout the year due to the broader market conditions, financing conditions, servicing coordinations, and development timelines. The town continues to maintain a strong residential development pipeline through registered, draft-approved, and active plans of subdivision. Staff undertook a comprehensive review of the town's residential development inventory to improve the accuracy, consistency, and reliability of housing supply tracking. As part of this process, units that have already been constructed were transitioned from the current supply inventory into our built-out category, resulting in a more current and accurate representation of available development lands. As of year end of 2025, the town had approximately 2.4 years of supply within registered plans, nearly 13 years of supply within draft-approved plans, and over 2 years of supply within active plans currently under review. Development planning advanced several key initiatives throughout 2025, including the publication of the town's zoning bylaw consolidation to improve public access to planning information. Staff also completed the Spears Garden reconsultation process, increasing the proposed development from 103 to 203 residential units through draft approved of an additional 100 units. In addition, several significant site plan applications were advanced, including the hospice development on 42 King Street and regional housing development at 255 High Street, supporting continued investments in housing and community services across Fort Erie. In 2025, the town successfully concluded a total of 8 OLT appeals. All matters were resolved through either successful appeals of decision or negotiated settlement, resulting in positive outcomes for the municipality. These results reflect strong collaboration between planning staff, legal counsel, and administration in managing and resolving complex planning matters. Beyond operational and development activity, Town Council adopted the town's new official plan on August 25th, 2025. The official plan established a long-term strategic framework to guide growth and development across the municipality through to 2051, including the identification of strategic growth areas, intensification opportunities, housing, employment, lands, and infrastructure planning. The official plan is currently under review by the province for final approval, which we anticipate in the near future. The department also continued advancing several environmental and sustainability initiatives throughout 2025. As part of this work, staff developed the town's climate change action plan in-house, which was adopted by council on August 11th, 2025. Through the implementation of this plan, staff were able to advance a number of key goals and actions identified within the strategy. This included the planting of 235 trees throughout the municipality, continued support of bee city and pollinator initiatives, and community engagement and education programming. In addition, the town launched a municipal electric vehicle pilot program, including the procurement of a fleet vehicle and charging infrastructure, with ongoing monitoring continuing into 2026. Staff developed the Affordable Housing Community Improvement Plan in-house, which was adopted by council on February 10th, 2025. The plan introduced financial initiatives to support affordable housing development, housing studies, and additional dwelling units. In 2025, 8 applications were received, all related to additional dwelling unit grants, demonstrating strong early interest in housing intensification opportunities. The town also continued advancing heritage initiatives, including a review of the properties on the Municipal Heritage Register, resulting in 12 additional properties being designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. Participation Heritage Tax Rebate Program also increased in 2025. In 2025, the town successfully completed 13 parks and recreational projects across the community, including the Godrich Park replacement, the new Sugar Bowl bandshell, and the Sugar Bowl playground replacement. 3 new parks were officially opened in 2025, expanding recreational opportunities and enhancing accessible community amenities for residents across Fort Erie. Staff continued the implementation and administration of the tree bylaw. A total of 127 tree permit applications were received in 2025. The town collected approximately $73,000 through administrative monetary penalties related to tree protection enforcement. Of this amount, 75% supports enforcement and staffing costs, while the remaining 25% is reserved to fund for future tree planting and canopy enhancement projects. Bylaw enforcement continued to provide responsive services throughout 2025. A total of 2,245 calls for service were received during the year, with approximately 94% successfully resolved. Lot maintenance and lawn grass complaints continue to represent the largest category of service requests. Parking enforcement activity actually increased in 2025, with staff issuing 733 parking tickets throughout the year. In addition to responding to service requests and supporting community standards across the municipality, bylaw enforcement staff also participated in several community outreach and engagement initiatives throughout 2025, including Earth Day cleanup, suicide prevention at the Native Center, and High School Beach Day. Overall, bylaw enforcement staff continue to play an active role not only in enforcement and compliance, but also in community engagement, education, and public support initiatives across the town. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Ferruzzi. Are there any questions? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. I'm curious about the $73,000 in administration fees through the fines that were collected through the tree bylaw. So, in other words, okay, so we fine somebody $1,500 if they take down a tree without a permit, right? So we don't even break even because we pay $1,000 for a tree, and of that $1,500, only 25% is actually going towards purchasing a tree. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor, I would have to double check with bylaw, but I believe so.
No, okay, that's okay. I think that's 75% going towards administration and 25% actually going to replanting a tree, I have some concerns about. But anyway, going on to that, in the report, it talks about, you said 127 trees, tree permit applications. Are they tree permit applications or are they letters of exemption? Are they both?
I would, through you, Mayor, I would have to look into that. When I look to do my reporting, it says tree permits. So I'm not, to me, I believe it would just be a tree permit. So I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. I'm reading this 127 tree permit applications, but earlier it said something like 30.
It was 36 for Q4.
No, 36 tree permit. I'm talking about the year, the 2025, where you have 127 tree permit applications were received. But if you said earlier in the report, it says there were 36 tree permit applications in the fourth quarter of 2025, issuing 10 permits. So that meant that there were 16, no, 26 trees that were either hazardous or dead. Right?
Yeah, so 10 permits issued were regular trees and 26 for dead hazardous trees.
Okay, do you need a permit for a dead or hazardous tree?
Yes.
You need a permit or a letter of exemption?
I think a permit, but I guess I can't be 100% because I don't issue them. But I can find out. I've actually never heard of letter of exemption. That's why I'm a little
Well,
confused.
it's in the bylaw. And it's not clear to me either, to be perfectly honest. It's not clear to me because it refers to it, but it doesn't really have any, a lot of detail on it.
But for reporting purposes, those dead and hazardous trees are counted. So.
No,
but-
I see that on the 30.
Yeah.
So out of the 127 tree permits, we don't know how many of those were actually dead or hazardous.
No. I mean, I could tell you by going back into notes, but as of right this second, I wouldn't be able to.
Okay, so if, trying to figure out where I'm going with this. If there's, okay, when you get a tree permit, if it's a dead or hazardous tree, let's assume it's a permit. It's supposed to be a letter of exemption, but anyway, let's say it's a tree permit. They don't have to pay for it,
Right.
right? Okay. I'm looking forward to finding out what a letter of exemption is.
Yep.
And what a permit is, because I understand you don't need a permit. You need a letter of exemption in certain circumstances, and it's really not clear in the bylaw. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? There being none, thank you, Ms. Ferruzzi.
Thank you.
I appreciate your presentation.
Thanks.
The next item is report under the revised addendum, report number 11.2.1, PBBS 22-2026, the PBBS 2025 fourth quarter Q4 and year-end development building planning bylaw status report.
So moved.
Can I get a mover? Your worship. That report is now on the floor for questions and comments. I haven't, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? That is, all those, any opposed? That is carried. The next item is new business inquiries. Your worship.
Yes, I spoke to the director earlier today about the status of the Erie Beach, Waverly Beach Park, because there has been a lot of work going on, and I wonder if she could maybe just update us on that, because I don't think the public has too much knowledge of what's happening there.
Mr. Warrior.
Through you, Madam Chair, to His Worship. So the project was started in May of 2025. Since then, we have done extensive stakeholder meetings, and those stakeholder meetings were done with NPCA, Niagara Parks, Indigenous group, and the proponents. And also during this finding, we found out that there were some species at risk, which included fowler toad and red-headed woodpecker. So staff is continuously working on resolving those issues. The next step would be that staff would be having an open house meeting, which would probably be in July. And after that, in August, we will be bringing a report to council.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Noyes?
Excuse me, yes. I have a question, and actually, and I think it's you guys. I think it's planning, not infrastructure. We have the new dog park that's not yet open in Stevensville. There's some damage that's been done to the dog park in regards to they break the latch or whatever, and I guess there's been some garbage put in it. I know that we've talked about this in the past about protecting our assets, and we've talked a little bit about video cameras or something like that. Are we looking at that in regards to protecting our parks or discouraging vandalism?
Is that you or Mr. Peasel? Okay.
Through the chair, we did have staff go out today and investigate that issue with the dog park. We looked for garbage. There was no garbage that was deposited in the park, but we are going to address the issue with the lock that was broken. We can definitely look at future security measures to mitigate this. It'll all be based on logistics of hydro and finding power for cameras.
I'm thinking that I know that when I walk through the conservation park, there are cameras in the trees and there's no electricity, there's no nothing. Don't ask me how it works, but there's cameras throughout the conservation park that you have to look very carefully to find them because they're quite well hidden. But I think that's for the purpose of, number one, I think not just for vandalism, but tracking the animals, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Then we'll continue on to the business status report. Are there any questions or comments about the business status report? There being none, I turn the chair back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Christensen. That takes us to infrastructure services. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Your Worship. Infrastructure Services is now in session. We have no presentations tonight. That'll move us directly into reports. First report is 12.2.1 IS 04-2026 Colony Road Water Main Replacement. Moved by Your Worship. Any questions or comments, Your Worship?
Yeah, I just want to say how good a job staff did with respect to marshaling this through. This is a very complex project, and I want to congratulate them for being able to tap into, I know, a highly sought after provincial program. And I want to thank Councillor Christensen for being present as well at the presentation. It's good anytime that we can address both the safety of our water system and also address some climate resilience issues. So thank you to staff for their work on this.
Thank you, Your Worship. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Christensen.
I just wanted to reinforce that the thanks to staff. I attended most, if not all, of the public open house sessions that the consultants held. At times it was very delicate because the staff and consultants were facing the challenge of knowing just how much it would cost to resolve this, and the choices were all quite expensive. The responses to the residents who were concerned, the dedication to doing the work and actually successfully accessing the provincial program. Yeah, thank you very much on behalf of the residents. I know they will be delighted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. Any other comments? And I too just wanted to also acknowledge the extensive public consultation that went into this with Niagara Peninsula Conservation, as well as the Indigenous communities and the neighboring associations. So good work. No other questions. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, that has carried. My computer froze. The next is 12.2.2 IS 05-2026 PWR 30, waste receptacle replacement single sourcing. Do I have a mover? Your worship?
Well, I'll let Councillor Christensen take it.
I didn't see her. Councillor-
I'll have an assist.
Councillor Christensen, thank you for moving that. Any questions or comments? Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of comments. I'm wondering, there's two numbers that are associated with this report. One is 77 existing waste receptacles being at or near the end of their service life, and another, the staff support buying 50 waste receptacles. I'm just wondering which of those two numbers is accurate for the 150K that we're spending.
Thank you, Councillor Flagg. I'll go to the director, and if not, the CAO.
So the actual number of receptacles that are getting replaced is 50 this year. We are shuffling out the worst of the garbage cans and putting the new garbage cans with the 40 rebranding front facing, while removing some of the old not so ergonomic blue bins out, and then shuffling those other cans around. We're hoping to replace the rest of the remainder of the cans next year.
Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, if I can continue. So roughly 3K per unit?
Yes, sir.
Director?
Okay. And if I may continue, I'm just wondering with the region pulling back on their recycling pickup, these have recycling spots. What are we doing with the recycling that we're going to be picking up out of these receptacles?
So through the chair, currently right now there is no recycling program in place. With the improvement in our recycling program, that would mean we'd have to get a dedicated recycling truck to filter out the recycling itself. The hope is that in the future that the recycling program will take off and through a modified approach, and we can use these new garbage cans for a more environmentally friendly way of disposing our garbage and recycling.
Councillor Flagg.
So in other words, right now we'll pick up both sides and throw it in trash?
That is correct right now.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I have a problem with the price at $3,000 a unit. Now, I've never wanted to be the canary in the coal mine. This is a prototype. It's never been used before. We don't know what the problems may or may not be. We don't know anything about it because it's a prototype. I would suggest that rather than going for 50, you get two, you put them in high traffic areas and see if there's any issues or any problems with it. I'm not going to support purchasing 50 prototypes, particularly when, again, and I understand that we don't have recycling at this point, but when we're kind of saying that we're doing it, but we're not, I have a problem with that. Like if we have a recycling, that this is where recycling is going and people are taking their time, hopefully, to put it in the recycling, but it's not going anywhere. It's just going into the trash. So that's kind of, that doesn't sit well with me when we're doing that. And I don't know which ones are going to be replaced, but I'm hoping that the barrel, which is really a barrel that we haven't, that I've been asking for about 10 years now, the barrel at Douglas Park, AC Douglas, I don't think it has been replaced yet. It was there last year. It's really just a painted barrel. We'll be happy to get even one of the old ones if you can replace our barrel. But that never seems to go. Like I priced some of these, well, not the prototype, obviously. I don't know why it's $3,000 per unit. I don't see it. I know that we can buy.
Do you want an answer to that question?
Sure.
In terms of, okay, it's a question on price, Director.
I'm going to defer that question to the CAO.
So through you to Councillor Noyes, the recycling and garbage units that we currently have need to be street resilient. And so a lot of the units that are on the market, they tend to have degradation very quickly because they're exposed to road salt and a number of other things that have been degrading the units. So when we look at comparative products of the same quality, that will probably have, I'm guessing, probably a 30-year shelf life. Although the price is quite high, we will have a long life on the assets. They're aluminum. They're not subject to the same sort of degradation, rusting, some of the units that we have now. The powder coating has been compromised over time due to road salt and moisture and other things. So part of the price that we've been quoted is probably more indicative of a custom design for a 30-year product. We think it's a better investment because it'll retain at least a nice clean look as well, without some of the issues we've had with some of the other designs that are there. I don't think the $3,000 is out of market when we looked at some other comparative products, but Mr. Pizzo can speak to that. And I guess the other question around the recycling, our challenge is that I don't think we were expecting producer responsibility around recycling to have compromised our contract with the region around garbage and recycling collection. And so I think that's a new issue for us as a municipality. Many commercial clients, many institutional clients are facing the same issue where what we thought would be service where we could get recycling picked up. We don't have the option of having that pickup service now. So I think we need to look at that. I think you raise a great point. We do need to look at a way of keeping the garbage separated at source and removing the recycling and having it disposed of properly. And so that is a takeaway for us, and that we've been grappling with that one since those regulation changes were made at the region. So we will look into that, and we will get back to council on an approach that we could reasonably be managing the recycling in a better way.
Councillor of the floor.
Well, thank you, Councillor Lewis. Again, I'm not going to support this until we have a trial of it. Like, I would like to see one in use for 1 year, or two in use, and see if the functionality that we're anticipating actually happens. And if they're great, wonderful, you'll have my full support. But if we find out there's problems with it, whether the opening isn't too big, whether it's too small, et cetera, whether, although it may not rust, but somebody gives it a good kick, it dents, I don't know. And I don't think any of us really know how it's going to hold up, because it is a prototype. Again, I don't like being the canary in the coal mine, and I think this is where we're going with this.
Comments have been noted, Your Worship.
Yeah, I just had a question with respect to the recycling. I know that Niagara Parks has dual receptacles in all of their parks, including their service road parking lot areas. So they must be doing something with the recycling, I would assume. Is that something that we could follow up on and find out what the parks does?
Through the chair to you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I can follow up with the parks and find out what they do.
Yeah, because, if we're going to be collecting recyclables, there should be some solution for us rather than just put them in the landfill. I don't know how sophisticated receptacle design work is, but I wonder if the CAO can comment on that.
Mr. CAO, to design of garbage cans.
Thank you. Through you to the mayor. So when we talk about the concept being a prototype, they're a fairly standard design. The dimensions, the way they're set up are fairly standard. The inserts, the reason we've called it a prototype mainly is because it's a branded Canada perforating product, and so they wanted to give us a concept or a design so we could look at it and provide some feedback. There were earlier prototypes that were provided. They worked with our garbage collection staff, because on some of the current receptacles we have now, they have doors, they have doors that flip out in different directions, and our staff have had concerns ergonomically around getting the waste receptacles that are inside the inserts out, because they've had to lift them up and over. They worked with our staff, and the reason why they call it a prototype is they've designed the front for the 2 pins to release. The front door flips down and it pulls out, so they can pull the bins out directly, put them back in. So the design and the prototype really was the result of consultation with our staff who are actually emptying the cans. And so we're quite happy with the design, because it's much better than most of the 77 receptacles that we've got in the fleet. And so it'll just reduce the amount of effort by staff having to clear out the garbage cans. So the prototypes they're not an experiment. I guess they're more of a concept that they've put together for us to look at to confirm that it's meeting our expectations. And I think we're quite pleased with the amount of effort they've put in to design it the way that we've needed it.
Your worship?
Yeah, I will support this. I like the idea that it's a local manufacturer. It may be an opportunity for us as well to assist them to get their product into a broader market. It may be a little pricier than going out and purchasing what's available, but if the CAO is correct, and we're talking about maybe a 30-year time service life for these units, I think we need to take that into account as well. So I'm prepared to support this personally.
Councillor Noyes?
Are there any dimensions on this? I don't see it. I see the picture. I don't know the dimensions of it. And I also see that the one picture that we do have, it has them on the sidewalk. Now, that may just be for a photo shop or whatever, but if we're planning on putting them on the sidewalk, you're going to have a problem with accessibility if they're taking up half the size of the sidewalk. So I don't see any dimensions here. So I don't know how, it's too bad we don't have one to look at. I don't know if it's this wide, this wide, this wide. You know, I don't know.
So Councillor Noyes, I'll ask those two questions to the director, one being on dimensions of the garbage cans and the other being on the locations, whether it's on sidewalks or slabs next to sidewalks or any details there. Thank you.
Through the chair, the dimensions I don't have offhand. I can definitely follow up and send those to you. The picture illustrated there was the image of us rolling these out for Earth Day when we did our community cleanup. We introduced them to staff who were quite happy that their design got put into place, especially with the ergonomics and the functionality of the garbage cans. The design and the dimensions, I will follow up with you. They will not be installed on sidewalks. They will be installed in locations where they're accessible and not impeding foot traffic.
Councillor Noyes, you still have the floor?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Chair. Just one further question. Will these be locked? The prices of aluminum for recycling is fairly good, so I was just wondering if these are going to be available for the taking, if you will.
Director?
Through the chair, these will be fastened down. If you look in the images, there's tabs on the side that they'll be lag bolted down to the concrete or to patio slabs. The front panel that comes off currently right now has what we call like a Zeus clip that you have to spin and undo. We do have the option to put locks on them if we want to. The problem is with some of the garbage pickup that takes place in the BIAs, it is handled by the region. And when you have different staff on, it makes it very cumbersome and troublesome to handle that many keys.
Councillor Flagg.
I'm not sure if I have anything further. I just a cautionary tale. I think that we may see a few of them leave, that's all.
Any other questions from council? You have one more? One more.
I have an amendment, actually.
I have a question, so if we can go
Okay.
to your question before, you have a question or an amendment you're going to? One question, a couple of questions I have. One being, you mentioned the front latches snapping off. Does it then drop forward, or how does that open? Is it opening top down or side to side? I just don't understand. And that's to the director.
Through the chair to you. So the two pins unhook, the top of the panel pulls forward, and then it lifts off.
Thank you. And the other questions I had, one was, I know at least in my conversation with the Crystal Beach BIA, we don't know how many of these bins are planned for the Crystal Beach BIA, but our bins were purchased with grant money that Councillor Christensen, not councillor at the time, but Miss Christensen helped with the grant money to receive that. So the question is, I guess, how many are being planned for the BIA area? And one of the comments I've had from a number of BIA members is they just got their 4-year-old garbage cans. In all the years, 4 years I've been on council, I have not had one person come up to me upset about the look of a garbage can. I've had people upset about the garbage cans not being picked up, but I've never had anyone, including the BIA, comment on the look or design. So I guess the question is, what will happen to is this being discussed with the business area board of managements? Because currently there is no communication that's come my way saying that there is. And I'm just wondering, how are the BIAs being dealt with individually? And the example would be Crystal Beach has 4-year-old garbage cans, and now we're looking at replacing those with a branded version potentially. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily the most beneficial use of money. But I guess the question would be, how many are being planned to replace the receptacles in the Crystal Beach BIA area?
Through the chair to you. So we actually met on site with the Crystal Beach BIA for separate issues, and the garbage can discussion was brought up. The members of the BIA expressed their interest of keeping their own garbage can and refurbishing them. So we're okay with that. We're hopefully going to put them out more into the front facing of the Bay Beach area and the public access areas and the high traffic areas, and the BIA will be able to keep their cans. We are in discussion with all the BIAs and all the user groups to see what their interest is in with the new cans.
Thank you for that clarity, because I have a meeting on Wednesday, and that's certainly something I'll take back. I just don't know if replacing something 4 years old is necessarily the best use, but I'll leave that there. The other question I had is with the design. It shows a garbage opening larger than a recycling opening, and I understand right now that doesn't matter, but when most items are recyclable, I'm just wondering why the biggest opening on a garbage can would be for something that is probably the least required thing going into it. And if that was ever addressed, or the reasoning behind the sizing of the inlets for the garbage. To whoever would like that one.
To you, the design was really thought out well. Typically, when people are discarding recycling, it's usually a single item or a cup or something like that. But when people are emptying garbage, it tends to be packaged up into small bags like kitchen catchers and disposed of in the garbage. And to relieve people from causing damage to themselves or damage to the cans themselves, we've made the opening a little bit bigger for ease of access.
Okay, so it sounds like some thought has gone into that, which I appreciate. And the last being, last year we had a whole bunch of stickers made that were, I was told, were going to be on every garbage can in Fort Erie, so that if someone wanted to report a garbage can as overflowing, they would have the information to do so. And I believe the only one in Fort Erie is the one on Ashwood Avenue and Erie Road, which I put on. And I'm just wondering, are we still planning on doing that with the garbage cans? And would the new units not have that part of the design?
To you, we are still planning on putting the stickers on the garbage cans. We're waiting for the weather to warm up and the new garbage cans to be placed out. There is going to take a little bit of shuffling to put the garbage cans. We are removing, as Councillor Noyes said, the intention is to remove all the blue barrels and move the front-facing garbage cans that are in fair or good condition into those areas where the blue garbage barrels are. Once we have an inventory of what garbage cans are going where, the stickers will be placed out, especially when the weather warms up and the adhesion process is better. I know when we tried to put them on last time, the weather wasn't ideal and a lot of the stickers fell off.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, I'll call the...
Well, let Councillor Noyes want to move an amendment.
Good point. Councillor Noyes, to your amendment.
Yeah, well, I'd like to make the amendment that we do not purchase 50, but we purchase 2 for a trial use for 1 year.
Okay, so any questions to the amendment? Councillor Dubanow?
Yeah, just briefly, would that affect our per purchase quantity? Do we have an agreement with them to make this amount? I don't disagree with where Councillor Noyes is going, but I'd just like to have an idea of financial implications if we do go that way.
To the director or CAO?
Through the chair, we are getting a better deal by buying a larger quantity. If we do reduce the amount of garbage cans we're purchasing, the cost perhaps would go up.
Councillor Dubanow?
I know I'm probably putting the director on the spot, and I apologize for this, but do we have any idea of what that may be? And if not, it's perfectly fine to say no. I'm trying to just get some information, that's all.
Director?
Through the chair, I don't have that information offhand. They've never really provided us a cost if we only purchased two. We looked at purchasing a total budget item. For that, they were able to roll out a larger amount of garbage cans for us to get a better bang for our buck, as these prototypes or similar cans would usually be a higher cost if we were to source them out.
How many prototypes do we have currently?
Two.
So we already
Through the
have,
chair, I believe we have two. The agreed upon one is the one that is out right now. The other one had a different branding on the front. Other than that, it was a very similar can.
Dubanow, you have the floor.
I'm just wondering if we may be able to, okay, let me ask this question then. Are there any time constraints on making a decision with the vendor? Is this like get it in now as part of a production run or something along those lines? Or is there some opportunity for us to perhaps take the existing prototypes we have in the field and maybe see how they work over the next 2-3 months?
Director?
So through the chair, the two prototypes are different branding on them, so it wouldn't be, they'd be different branding on the garbage cans, so it wouldn't be following our corporate brand standards to put two different branded garbage cans out. In order for us to achieve the 70 or the 55, or sorry, the 50 receptacles that are going to be replaced, we need to start manufacturing as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're going to be left out with the blue barrels again for another summer.
Councillor
Maybe
Dubanow?
transition through part of the year. It does take a little bit of a process to install these.
Councillor Dubanow?
I think that satisfied my concerns. Thank you.
One question with respect to the existing garbage cans in BIA districts. If the BIA wishes for them to remain and they need some leveling, as an example, is that something staff are still prepared to assist with? And I'm using the Crystal Beach one as the example here. To the director.
To you. Yes, staff will always be willing to help out the BIA.
Thank you. I'm going to go, Your Worship.
Yeah, so the report indicates that there are 77 existing waste receptacles identified as being near the end of their service life. So how long, will they last a year? Will the 77 last a further year?
Director?
Through the chair to you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the 27 remaining garbage cans will take the best of the worst and put them out in the areas further in the parks where they're not going to be seen as much, and we will make sure that we do the maintenance to get the last year out of them.
Your Worship.
Okay, so I don't know where the 27 comes from. I'm saying if we go with two, will the 75 that are remaining, will they last for a year?
Director.
Through the chair to you, I believe some of them will last, some are in a terrible state of repair, and the remainder of the ones that would not last would have to be replaced with the blue barrels that we have.
Your Worship.
No, that's fine, thank you.
Any other questions before I go back to Councillor Noyes? Seeing none, Councillor Noyes, to your amendment.
Again, I'm still pro for the two prototypes. And I'm sorry, when I hear that part of the reason we don't want to use one of the prototypes is because of the labeling. I can't remember the exact word to use. Surely there's a sticker that costs a little less than $3,000 that we could put on it that would say Town of Fort Erie. But anyway,
I think the point was that these were prefabricated and it's not a stickered by design. It's more complicated than that, but your point well taken.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I would hate to find out that we spend $146,000 and we find out that we really didn't do a good run. And listen, if it works, if the two prototypes work out beautifully and there's no complaints, there's no problems either from the consumers or the users or from the staff, be 100% behind it. But if it's a prototype, we've never seen any like this been used before that I'm familiar with. I've seen the 3 ones. And I just think spending $146,000 without really having a good look at the functionality of it, or could we improve upon the design, I can't support.
Was there a question with that, or that was just a comment? Okay, Your Worship?
So I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but my recollection of what the CAO said was that they're referred to as a prototype, but the design is fairly similar, and this follows something that's familiar elsewhere, and the town staff that deals with this had a chance to look at it. So, you know, unless the nuts and bolts fall off or something, I mean, we're talking about receptacles, we're not talking about spaceships. So
We started with beating dead horses,
Yeah, yeah.
so I don't quite know
well,
where
we've
we're
gone
going.
from,
but-
yes, we've gone from medieval to futuristic.
Councillor Dubanow, you had your hand up, I believe.
Yeah, I think His Worship kind of raised a point about the prototype. I was wondering if Councillor Noyes would perhaps consider a larger number. I mean, 2 is kind of, you know, small, and we could run into quality of scale issues, but, you know, I may be more inclined to support a smaller number than the original ask, but not as small as 2, you know, maybe 10, 20. I'm just putting that out there. I appreciate where she's coming from with this. I understand wanting to see how they actually act in the field. Councillor Flagg raised a point about, you know, the possibility of doors disappearing due to aluminum costs. I'd feel more comfortable to see how these work better in the field before we commit. And I'm just putting that out there. But I can't support just only 2. That just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just putting that out there.
So, Councillor Dubanow, to your point, are you suggesting that we look at more of the high-traffic areas that are busier in town for doing a pilot with some of these? To Councillor Noyes' point of testing a few areas?
Yeah, it would be because we have you know, a few different challenges right now. We have bins that we know need to be replaced and need to be taken out of service. We know that if this is a viable product, it's you know, it's going to look nice. It's going to be really, really good for visibility and for corporate branding. It's just for the assurance of, you know, not running into a situation where we spend all this money and then we find out that for whatever reason they're just not a suitable product for our specific use case. If it's possible to pilot it, and I don't think we can do that with a number as small as 2. You know, maybe 20, maybe 10, something along those lines. But I get the concern, especially with the cost of aluminum and the doors potentially not being locked. I think we need to have a better handle on how these are going to work before we do a commitment like that.
So I'll go back to staff, either the director or CAO, if there was any comments to looking at some of the higher traffic areas in town for a pilot of these units versus the request from staff for the full amount. And where would those high traffic areas be? Would probably be I can think of one. Waverly?
If I may, Mr. Chair, we have 77 that need to be replaced. You know, if we went to 27 or something along that to leave the 50 later on, and then flip it to 50 the following year, just to get a better eye of what may be happening without the full commitment.
Are you looking for a comment on that from staff, or are you looking for an amendment to do what you're saying?
I'm making more of a comment first.
Okay, so I will go back to either the director or CAO for comment on the number of 25 being for this year. 27? Any comments?
Through you to Councillor Dubanow, I think that's a fair, position. I think we do want to roll them out so that we can do some other things around pickup, route optimization, identifying, you know, the demands. In terms of the question around, we're looking at the highest traffic areas and the highest visibility areas initially for the rollout. And so I'll work with Mr. Peasel and his team. I think they've identified those areas. And, you know, coming back to the question that Councillor Lewis asked, there are probably some areas that have already in place branded, consistent street furniture, if I can call it that. The intention is not to replace that if that's in fact in good shape and there's a design or a concept that they want to continue to perpetuate, we would be supportive of that. These are just really branded for other areas where we have no branded or sort of unmatched street furniture. So anyway, I think that 27 would be sufficient, and we can certainly report back to council on this, on those.
I'll go back to Councillor Dubanow because you have the floor, and Councillor Noyes, who had her hand up.
Councillor Noyes still has her amendment, so I don't know.
There was no amendment on the floor.
27? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll support that amendment. It's for 27.
Okay, so do you want to put your amendment now on the floor? Are there any other questions to,
I did put the amendment on the floor.
you're going to keep your amendment on the floor for 2
No, I'm going to change it from 2 to 27.
to 27? Okay. Right. So, any questions to the friendly amendment? Seeing no questions to the friendly amendment, I will call the question. All those in favor? None opposed? Carried. So that concludes that. Now moving us to new business and inquiries. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so my mistake. The resolution as amended by Councillor Noyes. All those in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Who would have thought that would have taken that long? New business and inquiries. Any new business? Come on, everyone. No? Okay. Business status report? No questions? I'm going to turn it back to you, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Lewis, and I'm counting on Councillor Flagg to do a much more expeditious manner. Of course, he doesn't have any reports.
I've got your back. Corporate and Community Services now in session. No presentations or delegations. No reports. We've got one proclamation, and I'll look for someone to move it. Thank you, Your Worship. So Students Against Impaired Driving Day, May 14th. Any comments on that? All those in favor? Opposition? Passes. Business status report. No, and that's the way we like to take care of things here in Corporate and Community Services. Your Worship, back to you.
Very efficient, Councillor Flagg. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Councillor Noyes and then Councillor Dubanow.
Thank you. There's on May the 19th, there is a downtown Stevensville meeting at 9 o'clock at FINA.
Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, Your Worship. The Heritage Standing Committee has a meeting at Town Hall this Wednesday, May 13th at 1 p.m. Looks like it's scheduled right now in Conference Room 1.
Anyone else? Councillor Christensen.
Yes, Your Worship, the Fort Erie Public Library Board is scheduled to meet at 4:30 on May the 19th at the Centennial Branch of the library.
Any other meetings? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Wednesday will be the 13th. The Crystal Beach BIA will be meeting at 6 p.m. at the Crystal Ridge Library.
Any other meetings? If not, Councillor Dubanow, do your thing.
Yes, Your Worship. I'd like to move the council and committee adjourn at 8:45 p.m. this evening.
Those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you all.